Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Thursday, January 14th, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Sugar Shane Caldwell, and it's the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We're going with the two games on Saturday. We're going to break this down, the two-game slates on DraftKings and Fanduel. We have a separate show for the Sunday two-game slate. And if you watch both shows together, Shane, and you want to play a full weekend slate, then hopefully this will prepare everybody for that.
Yeah, especially on DraftKings, they got really big contests for the 4-game one, which is fun. And then FanDuel is really focusing, they have a 4-game, but they're focusing on the Saturday slate versus Sunday slate, big contest there. So either way you look at it, you're going to be able to use this information, really find an edge and, get an in-depth look at the way we think these games are going to play out and how that affects it. Because there's always traps of certain players you want to chase and certain matchups that you think are going to go exactly the same as they did before. And then one thing we know about the NFL that you get surprised every single week. So we're trying to predict those surprises ahead of time and translate that to good DFS plays.
That's right. So we're going to go game by game and team by team within each game, as we always do. And the general theme here for the weekend is that the number 3 and number 4 seeds in both conferences have lost. So we've got 1 against 6 and 2 against 5 in both conferences. And the 1 versus 6 matchups are the bigger spreads. Those number 1 teams have been home resting. They are the best teams in the conference, so they have the big spreads. And then the 2 and the 5 seed games are both closer matchups. And we've got 1 of each on both slates. So starting on Saturday, we're going to go with the Rams and the Packers to kick things off at 4:35 p.m. Eastern. And the Packers are that number 1 seed in the NFC with a 7-point edge on BetUS.com.pa, our presenting sponsor. Over under here is 45.5. In terms of the injury news, John Wolford has been ruled out after that nasty hit he took against Seattle. So Jared Goff, a chance to get his team one step closer to the Super Bowl again, but he's got to go through Green Bay to do it. Cooper Kupp is also questionable. He got banged up with the knee, bursitis, so hopefully he'll be back out there. And on the Green Bay side, they are rested up. They're in pretty good shape in terms of health. So, Shane, break down this first matchup of the weekend for us.
Yeah, when I was looking at this matchup for the Rams, obviously I don't really like the matchup going into Green Bay. I don't like the Rams offense that much. There's a few plays there, but I'll explain why. I was thinking about, obviously Cam Akers has been getting a ton of volume for the Rams, and he looks like a great play. He's a high volume play. So Cam Akers will be on the radar for me, but I could make an argument to fade him, let's say if you were looking at maybe the 4-game slate. The 2-game slate, I can see, you might fade him if you're doing multiple lineups, but he's a guy. But the reason why is, the Rams are really good at that outside zone power run scheme. They've been really great at that high volume. And I remembered watching the game in week 16 when the Tennessee Titans went into Green Bay. And I believe that was a week we faded Derrick Henry. I think that was one of those weeks his price was way up. We didn't really like the game script going in there. But they were running that defense, Green Bay was, where they crowd the line. They had like 5 defensive linemen, and they had, 8 or 9 guys in the box. And I was like, how are they able to get away with that without, in that case, Ryan Tannehill getting them, right? In this
case,
that
was the
Jared
snow
Goff.
game.
Yeah, it was a snow game. But it wasn't just the weather. It was the way they schemed it. And I believe Henry approached, his 28 to 30 carries, and they held him under 100 rushing yards. So my point is, very similar scheme, power running scheme. Obviously, Henry's probably even more talented and powerful than Cam Akers. So Green Bay matches up well against them is my point. So Green Bay can use a similar game script. They can crowd the line of scrimmage and use a bunch of big guys up front and essentially just run blitzing. And they will attack the run on the way to the quarterback. I always talk about Green Bay, really tough pass rush. They get pressure up the middle, but they have Za'Darius and Preston Smith on the outside. That's going to cause a lot of issues for the Rams, for Jared Goff. He doesn't do well under pressure. Now, how can they get away with that? They have really good cover corners. You got Kevin King on the outside. You got Zaire Alexander, number 1 rated corner out there. They got good cover safeties, good scheme there. So I think that they can get away with crowding the line of scrimmage, getting a ton of pressure, and covering these guys one-on-one, and pretty much shutting down the Rams passing attack. And you got the Rams going into a cold environment, and you got Jared Goff with the kind of questionable thumb injury, doesn't do well under pressure. So Cam Akers is for me a volume play. He's getting more involved in the passing game, so he might be able to catch some passes. That's good there. But I don't think he's going to have a huge ceiling game. And I'm looking at Cam Akers as probably one of the highest owned guys on all these slates, because people know that the matchup on paper, if you just look at the Green Bay, it says that it's one of the best matchups. And Cam Akers is pretty cheap. So if you look at it, it says the Packers are rated really low against the run. But that's not factoring in the individual matchup and the game plan and the schemes and the strengths and weaknesses here. So that's why I think it's not as good a matchup as it looks like on paper. And I think they will mostly limit Cam Akers here. So that's why, I'm looking to fade him in some lineups. Other than that, I think the other best matchup, if Cooper Kupp is healthy, if we feel like he's pretty good going into the game, he's a good matchup because he's going to get Chandon Sullivan, the slot corner, which, gives up quite a few passes out of the slot. That's a better matchup than, Robert Woods going up against Zaire Alexander, for example. So I would take a look at Cooper Kupp. I do like him because they got to try to move the ball somehow. And those quick passes that Cooper Kupp would work well against Green Bay. And if you want to go GPP only and you want to get different, just because I think this guy's going to be super low, you could go with like Tyler Higbee, probably their best receiving tight end. He hasn't done anything lately. He's been pretty bad. But I think you can pass the ball against Green Bay. They're also rated really high against the tight end, but they haven't really played a lot of good tight ends this year. So because the coverage on the corners are really good against the wide receivers, they might game plan Tyler Higbee open more. So that's where he would be a GPP low owned type guy. So like I said here, I'm not that excited about the Rams because I think Green Bay matches up against them really well, and I think that game plan will be similar to when they really limited Tennessee in that game. And I think Tennessee's even better than the Rams offense as well. So that's where I'm at for the Rams side here. Are you about the same, or are you kind of like going to go with the crowd, which in my opinion, the crowd's going to say, fire up Cam Akers. He's the best high volume play here.
I want to fire up Cam Akers. And I think you make a great point in terms of the game plan and the scheme. One difference for me is that Cam Akers is not 8,000 or 9,000 or 10,000 like Henry. So he's a lot more affordable. I mean, 5,700 on DraftKings is terrific. He's less than J.K. Dobbins.
And I agree with you, but that's also going to skyrocket his ownership as well. So if you are factoring in ownership, then that's my point. He's going to be super high owned.
Yeah, it's just, but in terms of picking running backs on this slate, you have to get at least two, right? And when we get into the Packers side, we're going to talk about how Aaron Jones is facing a tremendously difficult matchup, and the Bills running backs are going to face a very tough matchup. So you got to pick two, and Akers with that price, I like him a lot, and I think it would be a real GPP play to fade him. With the wide receivers, I'm right with you. Cooper Kupp he's going to be in my lineup on DraftKings if he plays. He's a PPR wizard, and he's only 5,300. I mean, wow, that's a great price for him. Yeah, I know he's banged up, but again, if he goes, I'm going to trust that he's healthy enough to be close to his normal self. And Woods just has such a tough matchup with Zaire Alexander that I don't really want to go there. So, it's an interesting slate here, and we are getting into this stretch where you're dealing with a lot of tough defenses.
Yep.
So it's going to be a lot different here in these weekend slates than it has been all regular season, where you could cherry pick awesome matchups. So you got to take the best of what's out there, and I like Akers and Kupp. How about on the Green Bay side? This Rams defense is tremendous, and they handled Seattle pretty easily, 10-point win. How do you think that matchup's going to work?
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. I mean, we talked about last week how the Rams don't really have a glaring, they don't have a weakness on defense, so it's really hard to attack them. But the Green Bay Packers offense is one of the most versatile offenses. They're not like dependent on doing one thing. They can do a little bit of everything. So, tough to pay up probably for Devontae Adams here. Obviously he's going to have really tough coverage. I mean, the Rams have great coverage everywhere, and he'll probably see a lot of Jalen Ramsey. I think he can beat Jalen Ramsey on occasion, but overall, the battle, I think it'll be so highly contested that Devontae Adams won't be able to pay off his high price point here. So I would look to so I'm not really in love with Aaron Rodgers here. I think he will get it done in spots, but not enough to have high upside to win you a tournament or to smash value in on FanDuel or DraftKings. So that's why I look towards Aaron Jones, and I know it's a brutal matchup here, but I think what I noticed is that the Rams, yes, they are an elite defense. They haven't faced any really good running games lately. They're one of the top rated against the run, and if you look at the running backs they faced, like Seattle's running backs, for example, haven't been good. They faced them a lot. They've faced some pretty poor rushing attacks in terms of offensive line and talent in the backfield. Where the Packers have a good offensive line and Aaron Jones is really talented. And the Packers have pretty much load managed Aaron Jones and they haven't really run him that much. He isn't a super high volume guy. But this is the type of game where they can ride him a little bit more and get him high volume. You got to protect Aaron Rodgers. You can't just drop back and pass the ball against this really tough coverage and against Aaron Donald and that awesome pass rush they have. The Packers lost, their starting left tackle, David Bakhtiari. So there's less pass protection right there, right? So one good strategy is to run straight at Aaron Donald and company and to try to get Aaron Jones in space, who's a dynamic running back, who's, got great balance and speed. He's used to running on this in the cold weather, on this grass field in Lambeau. So my point is, I think that the game plan will dictate that Aaron Jones is heavily involved in the game plan more than he has in the regular season. And even though it's a tough matchup, the talent will prevail, in my opinion, here. And I think that, there's a threat there for still them to pass the ball, where on the Rams side, I don't really look at Jared Goff as that big of a threat like Aaron Rodgers, right? So the Packers can do a little bit of everything. They can occasionally hit you on the deep pass. Well, the Rams prevent that, but they can hit you with Green Bay can hit you with short passes, and they can pass to Aaron Jones and run the ball quite a bit with him. So I like Aaron Jones here, and I think that it's a tough matchup, but I think he'll get it done. He's a great playmaker. Other than that, I don't really like the Green Bay wide receivers, and I'm probably not going to be heavily invested in Aaron Rodgers either. So I think if you want to be a little contrarian, you could go with Robert Tonyan, just because if you look right above him, you're going to be looking at, guys like Mark Andrews and Kelsey that are going to be super high owned for good reason. And if you look right below him, we'll talk about other guys that are right below him that are high owned. So that leaves Tonyan in no man's land. And what I mean by that is super low owned tight end that has 1 to 2 touchdown upside and could get, 40 to 50 yards. So I think Tonyan could be a sneaky tight end play. Again, Rams pretty good against tight ends, but like Green Bay's defense, they haven't faced that many good tight ends either. Just a bunch of teams that don't really throw to the tight end. So those are the two guys I'm looking at for Green Bay. So as you can see, not heavily invested in this game on either side. In terms of the first analysis, and unless something changes in the next few days, I'm not heavily invested in it.
Yeah, I'm going to be more invested in game 2 also. And with the Packers, Tonyan is a consideration for me as well. He's probably the number 1 pass target that I would consider. But I love Mark Andrews' spot here on this slate. So for me, if I'm going to play Tonyan, it's going to be in a 2 tight end situation. I don't think he's enough in terms of savings from Andrews to justify going there. He's certainly found a knack for getting in the end zone, though. So he could easily pay off value. Rodgers is so talented. It's not like the Rams are going to hold him under 100 yards passing. He's going to get some production, and I think Tonyan is a decent option there. But I'm just really impressed with this Rams defense. So I really don't want much exposure to the Green Bay offense. I don't really like the Aaron Jones situation. I mean, I hear you with the talent. I hear you with more volume, and I hear you that he's more likely to be involved in the passing game than Cam Akers. But here's a question for you. Aaron Jones is more expensive than Akers on both sites by 1,000, 800 to 1,000 or so. Would you rather pay up and play Jones than Akers here?
Yeah, definitely. Just because you got to remember the game script too here. Green Bay should be in the lead in this game. They're at home. Their implied total is a lot more. They're 7-point favorites in a fairly low scoring game. So that makes a big difference there. So I think just the probability of Aaron Jones scoring a touchdown is much higher than Cam Akers. And just like I said, I agree. I mean, there's a reason why Cam Akers is going to be one of the highest owned players. I just think that people are forgetting that Green Bay's personnel, they have great personnel in schemes to be able to shut down this type of offense. Like I said, that's why I compared it to like Tennessee, who was also one of the top offenses in the league, right? So I just think that you'll look at that game plan. It tells you everything you need to know about how they're going to approach this. And it's not like Green Bay doesn't know that the Rams are going to come in there with a heavy dose of Cam Akers. They know that. I'm just saying, I think they have the personnel to shut down Cam Akers. He's still a rookie. I mean, I know he's been excellent. He's been impressive. I just think that they're going to shut him down. And I think it's Green Bay's, I think they're just going to be in the lead because, again, Aaron Rodgers is going to figure out a way to score. And they're going to be in the lead, and it's not going to be a good situation. And the Rams are going to get into desperation mode and have to pass. And Cam Akers might, he'll catch a couple balls out of the backfield, but I just think his likelihood of getting a touchdown are less. So that's my concern there. Just the overall scoring and just the offense in general.
Okay, yeah, I would prefer Akers here at a cheaper price. You could potentially go with both guys. You could pay up from Dobbins and go with Jones. And we also have to wait and see what the weather is like. If it's if we get some snow, then I might look at Jones a little bit more. But I'm even considering the Rams defense. I don't think they should be the cheapest defense on this slate on DraftKings. I think 2,600 is a great price for them.
I do like the Rams defense. So even if Green Bay is winning this game, they're good enough playmakers to cause, like those, fumbles or, random pick sixes and Aaron Rodgers is like, whatever, I'm still going to beat you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, even if they lose, is my point, or even if you're playing some Packers players, I think you can still play the Rams defense just in terms of defensive scoring, fumble recoveries and touchdown potential with the playmakers. So I agree with you there. I like the price on the Rams defense here.
Absolutely. How about that pick six from Darius Williams last week? I mean, he just read that like a book against Russell Wilson, jumped that route, took it to the house. That guy is terrific. They got playmakers all over the field. And always remember, especially in a two-game NFL slate, you often need to play a defense on one side and at least one of the skill position players on the other. And don't be afraid to do that. No doubt about it. All right, Shane. Well, before we get to game two, we have a tremendous offer from BetUS to share with folks if you're into sports betting along with DFS. Check this out.
Listen up, sports bettors. It's go time, so put down the beer and make every sporting event more exciting by putting stakes on the line. Earn bragging rights over friends as you rake in the cash from each week's betting action, but don't settle for any other book. Choose America's favorite sportsbook with over 25 trusted years in the industry. You need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity, and most importantly, a sportsbook that pays. BetUS has your game with action on football, baseball, and basketball, MMA, golf, horses, and even esports. No other sportsbook welcomes newcomers like BetUS with their jaw-dropping sign-up bonuses. Now we have the best book in the industry teamed up with the best DFS provider in the industry. Make your first deposit of $149 at betus.com.pa with promo code CoachTalk and receive a free membership with DFS Coach Talk with full access to our DFS lineups in NBA, NFL, PGA, and MLB, the best in the biz. Sign up today to make straight bets, future bets, prop bets, entertainment bets, live bets, and more. No other sportsbook in the industry is committed to their users like BetUS. So sign up now and get on the winning side of the ball.
Welcome back, and thank you to BetUS for extending that offer to our listeners. Again, use that promo code CoachTalk, all one word. It has to be your first deposit at betus.com.pa for $149, and then we'll get you into our Discord. You'll have a membership with us all the way until April 1st. So after you make that deposit, just reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. Let us know that you've done that, and we'll send you an email to get you into our Discord. And then what we do is we give out full lineups on Fanduel, a cash lineup, and then a GPP lineup. On DraftKings, we give out the coach's clipboard with highlighted core plays and pivots. And then on a two-game slate, we do a slightly different on DraftKings where we give core plays. So that's the situation with BetUS. If you want to grab our lineups and become a member, but you're not interested in the sports betting, that's also fine. Just go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, and sign up for whichever length of membership you want. You can just try us for a week or a month, or you can get that $149 package and not deal with BetUS. Just go straight through our website, dfscoachtalk.com. All right, Shane, let's get to game two here on the Saturday slate. And this one is the closer matchup on paper in terms of the spread at BetUS. In this 2-5 matchup, the Bills are favored on their home field by 2.5. Over-under is a little bit higher here at 50. And we've got Marcus Peters questionable for the Ravens, but we think he'll play. On the Bills side, we've got Zach Moss out. And we've learned that Diggs and Beasley have just been removed from the injury report. So Buffalo looking good with their wideout core. All right, Shane, take us through the 8:15 kickoff matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you got Baltimore going into Buffalo. Yeah, 2.5-point underdogs here. I'm kind of leaning still more towards the Buffalo side here in this matchup. But in terms of the Baltimore offense, I'm not really that high on Lamar Jackson. I mean, I love Lamar Jackson. I love the dual threat, the fact he can get over 100 rushing yards. I just think that, his accuracy leaves something to be desired. And I think that the Buffalo Bills are just so good at shutting down. They're pretty good at shutting down passing games. They have good coverage, pretty decent pass rush. And you've seen that Lamar Jackson wasn't really that effective through the air against like the Tennessee Titans, who aren't really not that great against the pass compared to Buffalo last week. So I just think that Buffalo, their defense and the way they play, I think that they match up pretty good against the Baltimore Ravens offense here in terms of being able to shut down the passing game and then being able to limit hopefully the upside of Lamar Jackson. I'm saying hopefully because if I fade Lamar Jackson, hopefully they can limit it, right? But so he might still be able to get 80 rushing yards, but I just don't think he's going to be that effective in the passing game. And I think that you can run the ball on Buffalo. So I do like J.K. Dobbins here. Obviously, he's going to get pretty good amount of volume. I know he kind of splits with Gus Edwards, which is a guy that you usually like quite a bit. It is tough because they are almost a 50-50 split, but I prefer Dobbins still paying up for him. Pretty good matchup. But again, because I think Buffalo's coverage schemes are so good and Baltimore doesn't have that many wide receiver threats, I think they'll be able to handle guys like Marquis Brown and really crowd the line of scrimmage and put a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson, and turnovers and stuff. So I actually like Buffalo's defense here as well. So I think that they will be able to limit it a little bit. But J.K. Dobbins, one guy with volume, I think can get the job done here. He's just not my top play. And probably my top play from Baltimore would be Mark Andrews, because I think Buffalo is so good at defending on the outside. But, Lamar Jackson already loves to throw it in the middle. And I think the best mismatch down the middle is Mark Andrews against the Buffalo linebackers and safeties here. So that's my main target is J.K. Dobbins and Mark Andrews here on the Baltimore side. Marquise Brown, don't really like the matchup, how they defend the outside. You'll probably see a lot of Tre'Davious White, so I'm not really loving that. I don't really need to go down to Gus Edwards just because you just never know how many carries he's going to get, even though he is super effective. I mean, he averages over 5 yards a carry, but you don't know how good this offense is going to be able to move on them. So it's pretty high over under. I'm just not loving the Baltimore side here. So I don't know, maybe you like the Baltimore side more than me because I'm kind of down on it.
I do. So what happened? They were your Super Bowl pick back in the summer.
I know. Yeah, well, I think that this Buffalo team's a little bit too hot for me right now in the way the teams match up. So I still respect Baltimore. I still think they're a good team, and I think they still have a chance to win this game. I just don't like the way I see the game playing out for DFS here as much. So maybe you like Lamar Jackson, or you just liking the more guys in general?
I do, yeah. So it'll be fun to hear your breakdown of the Bills situation. You obviously like their offense.
Yeah.
I do like the Ravens here. I'm going to pick them to win. I agree with you that Lamar still has limitations in the passing game, no doubt about it. But this is a good matchup. You can run against the Bills. They did a pretty good job last week against Jonathan Taylor, so I'll give you that. But Ravens have a great rushing attack, so I like Lamar here. I like Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I like all three of them. And it's a tough decision. It depends on how you build your lineup. I'll go with both. In some lineups, I will use both, and I'll use each of them by themselves. Last week was a perfect example of why I like Gus Edwards. Dobbins got 9 carries for 43 yards. Gus Edwards had 8 carries for 38, and he was much cheaper. The difference was Dobbins got in the end zone, and that could happen again. He's going to get opportunities in the red zone, but Gus Edwards is as well. And the game stalled when Baltimore was driving and Gus was out there, and he very easily if they had a little bit more time, could have gotten in the end zone. So I like all those guys as options, and then Mark Andrews, I agree, is the one guy that I really like in that passing attack. Great matchup. We saw what the Colts did last week. We were all over Jack Doyle. Remember that against the Bills, and he had
Oh yeah.
7 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, all their
Yeah,
tight ends. I think they had like 12, 14 catches and like 150 yards just for the tight end position. So
yeah, that's right. Burton had 3 catches for 34, and Mo Alley Cox was out there too. So
oh
they had over 10 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. So Mark
yeah,
Andrews, he's going to be locked into my lineups for sure.
definitely.
All right, talk to us about the Bills side here, Shane, and how you think Josh Allen is going to lead this team to victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Allen's he's right up there right now with Patrick Mahomes in terms of the quarterbacks that are hot and that can just hit you in so many different ways. I mean, when he improved his accuracy and the deep throw, he can throw the short pass, he can run around and get you. He pressure doesn't seem to bother him as much because he's big and he's still pretty fast and a physical quarterback. So, and he's got great weapons that seem to be rounding into form in terms of being healthy, great scheme, great creativity. So again, I respect the Baltimore defense, but I don't think the personnel in the way they play matches up good against Baltimore. What I noticed is that the Ravens rely on their cover corners, which sometimes can get burned pretty bad. They rely on their pass rush and their cover corners. They play mostly man coverage. And here's what you notice is that Josh Allen has just been lighting up man coverage all year. He has 19 passing touchdowns against man coverage, which is primarily what Baltimore runs, 8.8 yards per attempt against man coverage, which is good. And then his his best pass target, Stephon Diggs, leads the league in targets, catches, and yards against man coverage, and he has a 36% target share against man coverage. So I just think that I think that the Buffalo wide receivers are going to be able to beat the coverage, and I think the pass rush from Baltimore isn't going to bother Josh Allen as much because of his mobility and his ability to make off-script plays and run. So those man coverage guys are going to have to cover more. Also, Baltimore is one of the top blitzing teams in the league. And what do you think I'm going to say about Josh Allen against the blitz, right? He's awesome against the blitz. He's one of the top guys against the blitz. 18 passing touchdowns for Josh Allen against the blitz this year. So what I'm saying is that Josh Allen's already hot. This matchup lends to some of his strengths. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some plays where Baltimore stops him, but overall, over the course of 4 quarters, he's going to get them, I think, with some big plays, and that's what we're looking for DFS upside. And also, by the way, they're one of their best power goal line backs. Moss is out. What do I say about Josh Allen? All throughout the year, I go, he's their best goal line back, right? So he has the rushing upside to be able to get rushing touchdowns, and then we know he has the passing upside, and he's the only guy that that is looking like that type of dual threat where he's really good in the run game and the pass game, especially this past matchup here. So I just think that you can pair him with Diggs. And that's a great matchup for him. And I think this could be a bounce back spot for John Brown. I mean, I'll admit it, he burned me last week because I did like playing him as a low-owned guy last week. And he really, the thing is, he didn't end up connecting on some of those deep shots, but he did run a ton of routes. He ran more routes than anyone on the team. And they're going to eventually hit on one of those deep routes there with John Brown. He's a speed guy. So that's what I'm looking at as big upside. He can catch a couple underneath balls, and all he needs to hit is one deep shot, which I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to hit a deep shot for a touchdown here for John Brown. And then, of course, you got the technician in there, a little Cole Beasley. Tough matchup in the slot, against Marlon Humphreys, but Cole Beasley seems like he's uncoverable. That guy's so quick in and out of his breaks. So he's just got all these weapons at his disposal, and you got your high-end guy in Diggs. That's a leverage play off the expensive guys and the other expensive guys in the slate, like Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, for example. And then you got your cheap guys in Cole Beasley and John Brown. And you can even pair him with who's going to be their lead back now is Devin Singletary. Because if I think this offense is going to move the ball and score a lot, then Devin Singletary should be involved. And he's typically not a guy that gets a lot of touchdowns, but maybe this is the game. If not, he's going to be involved in the running and the passing game, and they can run those little draw plays and really get him in space. He's a quick little guy. So as you can see, I really like the Bills offense here to roll. And like I said, I respect Baltimore, but I don't think they match up well against what the strength of Josh Allen is. And I just think that this is the toughest matchup they faced in a long time. And I think Josh Allen is nearly unstoppable right now. That's the way I look at him.
Excellent breakdown. I like it. You look at the connections with his receivers, and he didn't connect with Brown for 4 targets. It didn't work out. If he does hit him on a big one, then Brown will be in a good spot to pay off his price. But he was really in tune with the other guys. Beasley, 7 targets, 7 catches. Davis, 4 targets, 4 catches. And he's always in tune with Diggs. I mean, what a tremendous season he's had. So I like Diggs here, and I can certainly see another one of those receivers paying off value. And Allen, I can't really argue with you. So it's just that I think I like Lamar a little bit better, but I'll build a lineup or two with Allen.
You just like the safety of the rushing upside, obviously the dual threat. Yeah,
I do.
See that. Yep.
But no, it's not like I could see Allen outscoring Lamar Jackson for sure. He has been absolutely tremendous. But I guess I fear the Ravens defense more still than the Bills defense. So that's why I lean with Lamar Jackson. And, Devin Singletary will certainly get more volume, and he's going to be more popular, and it makes a lot of sense. But hey, this could be the perfect GPP option for Gus Edwards on the other side, because he's $300 cheaper on DraftKings, $400 cheaper on Fanduel. So I think Singletary will be highly owned, and I think Gus Edwards is a nice pivot in that game in terms of running backs. Shane, it's hard to believe, but it's the end of the slate here. That's our 2-game Saturday slate. We hope you will also check out our Sunday show, the 2-game slate, and certainly invite you to join us as members. Like we said, there's 2 ways to join. The BetUS route, use that promo code CoachTalk, or just come straight in from dfscoachtalk.com, our website. If you have any questions, find us on Twitter at dfscoachtalk. You can find Shane at DET Sports Shane. I'm at Language Olympic, and the coach is at JOESARVADI. So that'll do it for the Saturday show. Thank you for all your support. Hit like and subscribe on YouTube if you could, so you know when the other podcasts post. Hit that alert button, and make sure you check out our NBA podcasts as well. Those are going up 7 days a week right now, and our new schedule is to post those at about 2 o'clock Eastern time before every NBA slate. So thank you all for tuning in. On behalf of the DFS Coach Talk team and Shane Caldwell, I am Andrew Hansen. We'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.